Thank you very much. This is Brother Benson Media, where we discuss issues that are concerning us about our society and the leadership that we have. Today, we are very lucky to be hosting again youth leader Mr. Jimmy Magero, who is going to assist us to understand or help us understand what interest do political leaders or political class are fighting for. Without wasting too much time, may I give this opportunity to Mr. Jimmy Magero to introduce himself to our viewers? Then we will go straight to the discussion. Thank you very much, Mr. Jimmy. Hello, Mr. Jimmy.
Hello, sir. Sorry for the delay.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, we were just starting. I think there was something wrong with the. I think with the link that I was trying to send, and luckily enough, you are here now. As I was saying earlier, I just said that today we are going to discuss the issues that really affect us in our society, especially whose interest is political class fighting for. So Jimmy is kind of like still having some kind of like internet problem, but we can go ahead with you, introduce yourselves to our viewers, and from there we can go on and discuss about the issue. Are you listening?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, I'm listening.
Yeah, you can introduce yourself to our viewers, then we can go on with the discussion.
Okay, sorry. My name is Thomas Ogendo, the ward manager, Parkland Sirage Ward in Nairobi County, and also the executive director for Youth Action Network, an organization that is envisioned to champion for the general development of the young people in the community. Yes.
Oh, thank you very much for that. And today we just want to discuss issues, especially surrounding the political class. We just want to know who are they fighting for, especially when it comes to political class. Because, for example, we have where their personal interest and that of the country. You look at their personal interest outweighs the one of the country. How? Who are they fighting for? If you may elaborate. Welcome, Mr. Jimmy. Hello, Mr. Ogendo.
Yes. Okay, talking about political interest,
Mm-hmm.
one, we have to actually define interest in two ways. We know leadership is taking risk that others are afraid to take, but in a very positive dimension. So when talking about political interest, so we have one, leadership interest and political interest. So talking about whose interest are the political class serving, and as far as leadership is concerned, we have different responsibilities that leaders are discharged with. That is in as far as constitution is concerned. Like if I take a case of Kenya, we have two arms of government. We have one arm that is the devolution, that is grassroots oriented, and we have the national government that serves without boundaries. That is, they serve the entire nation. So as far as this leadership is concerned, we have those working as an executive arm that now comprises of the governor and the office of the president. And we have those who are discharged with the mandate to do legislation.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to this legislation,
Mm-hmm.
the categories, that is the functionality of leaders in the legislative arm of government are
Mm-hmm.
three. One, it is representation. Two is legislation. and three is oversight. So at some point, we can't generalize in as far as some duties or some responsibilities are concerned. They have tried as much as possible to serve the interest of the people. However, when it comes to responsibility such as legislation, we have a data that
Mhm.
says legislation or other policy advocacy in Kenya stands at
Mhm.
20%. So at 20%,
Mhm.
and we know the core drivers of our legislation, or rather, that is the advocacy aspect, remains solely with the legislators. So it means as far as legislation is
Mhm.
concerned, then we are far much behind. When it comes to representation, I must say
Mhm.
our leaders have tried their level best to balance the registration aspect of their responsibility in the essence that
Mhm.
we just saw the just concluded demos organized by the Azimio. Of
Yep.
course, some of the leaders were present there and were the initiators of such a nice conversation that saw the country benefiting from some of the demands. So, in as far as leadership failing or rather serving the country is concerned, it depends at which angle are we viewing our argument, and it is in terms of which responsibility. So,
Okay.
in terms of interest, as at now,
Uh, the place where I
yes.
kind of like I was arguing my interest. Jimmy, are you back? The place there I was arguing my interest is like when you look at when the people they should serve, look at when they're giving the allowances that are they're having, the good life that are learning as compared to the common man. That's where I was giving that kind of analogy. Like, why is it that um, when they're having this kind of meetings, especially, they usually get huge allowance as compared to the common man, even their pay, especially. Hello. Seemingly we are having internet problem here.
Sorry for that inconvenience. From
Uh-huh.
an honest perspective, I
Uh-huh.
must say, okay, fine.
Mhm.
Maybe as far as viewing it from the benefit that leaders get, but if you look at the benefit of every leadership,
Mhm.
uh, of course, everybody wants a good pay, and we
Mhm.
believe leaders in this essence have been like an example to others. So when it comes to the argument on the basis of all leaders getting these allowances, in other words, leaders must be appreciated of the things that they are doing. However, that does not give them a leeway of also extorting or rather taking too much away from the people. But one thing we
Mhm.
must also agree, there's a policy guidance in terms of what leaders should benefit.
Mhm.
One, in as far as the allowances are concerned, because we have the office of the
Mhm.
to regulate in terms of what the leaders should benefit. The second thing, we have guidance, constitutional guidance on the kind of interest our leaders are supposed to enjoy. That, as far as cost effective of running these offices are concerned. So when we argue in terms of the benefit that our leaders are getting, then we are trying also not to put into consideration the mandates that we have served our leaders with.
Mhm.
Let's say we are talking like the case of a member of parliament. A member of parliament constitutionally has three mandates. One is legislation, two is oversight,
Mhm.
three is representation. You can't represent all of these things. You can't do oversight. That is something our leaders also to complain that, oh, you expect too much from us with a very less resources. So like
Mm,
as a country, we have achieved best in terms of avoiding any kind of leaders bringing complaints of lack of enough resources in terms of them discharging their duties. That's my argument as far as that is concerned. So when
okay,
we
thank you.
base
Okay.
our leaders serving interest in terms of the pay, then we
Yeah.
are not being honest as a country.
Okay.
Because I
Okay.
think we try to achieve the best by
Mhm,
avoiding the term of complaint that you
mhm,
never gave us enough resources for us to perform oversight, for us
mhm.
to do legislation, and for us to do representation.
Okay, Mr. Jimmy, what is your take?
Sorry, I lost you a bit. I was off the network.
Yeah,
Just
yeah. We were just looking at we were talking about what interest are the political class? Who are they fighting for? That what was I was asking, and I was looking at it in terms of like the personal interest. You look at their personal interest outweighs the national interest or the people that they serve. For instance, they get more allowances. They get the kind of life they live is a very high class life as compared to the life I might call it the commoners who are really paying tax. Yeah, so that's how I was looking at it. So, what is your thought?
okay. Thank you again, Mr. Benson, for today's invitation. And on this question, we need to look at it in an angle, in another angle. The citizens need to understand the levels of interest in politics. And I look at two levels of interest here, where we have got the political class interest and the citizen interest. So, what citizens need to do first is to ensure that they understand that what level are they supposed to put their energies and concentrate and focus more? Because citizens tend to be so much submerged into the political class wars to the extent that they lose focus on areas or levels where their interests are supposed to be catered for, and at what point are they supposed to belt up and stand their ground and bargain for their peace. So there are levels. Yes, the political class interest will always come first. That is a fact. The political class interest will always come first. The political class want to gain power first, after gaining power, to control resources, the same resources that they want to control. This is where citizens are supposed to come in and know and understand that where is our peace in terms of the resources that are going to be controlled. So citizens must understand first that their political class interest will always come first, and they need to understand at what point do they need to belt up and stand their ground and bargain for their peace. And I feel that as citizens come in at the point of policy making,
Mhm.
after campaigns have been, the politicians have gone through the campaign period and a government has been formed, that is the level where citizens need to concentrate more, because issues of governance now start. The policies that are supposed to be implemented now come in. Citizens now need to ask themselves, what are some of these policies that the government is coming up with? How are these policies going to impact or influence our lives? How is it going to change our lives? That's where they need to concentrate more, not at the level of campaigns. Yes, as much as we have got the responsibility of choosing the government, we need to know where our energy should be placed more. And to me, is the level where policies are being made and policies are being implemented.
sometimes I think like maybe sometimes like what I might say, I might agree with Thomas at some point, and at some point also I disagree with him, because when we talk of what is in the book, or even how it is implemented on how the leaders talk, they might talk very very good and feel like this thing is going, but when you see what they are doing is kind of like quite much different with how they talk. And that one's that why sometimes it puts you in a question to ask like, if they really are fighting for the interest of the people, why is it that when it comes at times in the parliament or in the senate whereby they're discussing about their salary, we don't see all those wars? Yeah, it is usually it always goes, and like they all support it without looking at what political functions they are, provided it is money that is coming to them. Yeah, but maybe if it comes to something that affects the wananchi, you will find like, oh, the other side is just pushing for their side, the other side also is pushing for their side, yet we belong to the same country. So that's my view.
Yes, I understand and I agree with you. But again, at the same time, I also blame citizens. You
Yeah.
know, it's citizens even dictators.
Hmm.
Because check on the government, because they have got the role of
Hmm.
checking the government that is in office and ensuring that they are accountable for each and every single resources that are there. And those resources are supposed to be working in the best interest of citizens. When we don't check
Hmm.
the government definitely will be geared towards becoming rogue, or a government that will be so irresponsible. As much as, yes, we have got our constitution
Hmm.
that guides us and that we need to that we do everything within its confines. Still, if citizens are not so much concerned about what is going on,
Hmm.
there is high possibility of leaders becoming irresponsible. So I also, to a great extent, feel that citizens have got responsibility of
Hmm.
ensuring that these leaders account to these leaders, are able to make sure that they do exactly what took them to those offices.
Okay, thank you. I just want again to look at a place, one area. This is area of corruption. And you find that in each and every government, be it we've right now we are counting as a Kenya, we've had like now this is the fifth government ever since we say we got our independence. But each and every government, there's a mega corruption that are happening. But if you look at when this investigation are done, or when even like because maybe a suspect, you're still called as a suspect, the the majority of people who are called suspects are either maybe the people in the political class or the people who associate with them. And you find like the money that maybe is taken, or like the money that they take, are mega projects that are going to bring benefit to the people. Yeah. And yet they're the same people who go in there and take this money, yeah, steal this money from public coffers. So, and the same politicians who will come and tell you, or the same political class that will come and tell you we will do this, yet they steal money that is meant for us or the people of Kenya. Now my question, that how is their interest if they're the same people fighting for us and the same people who are taking what is meant for us? Mr. Thomas.
Thank you so much. Allow me to respond in that. In as far
Mhm.
as interest of leaders are concerned, then there's something we really need to understand, that after every 5 years, the constitution gives mwananchi an opportunity to elect new leadership into position. Then mwananchi has a mandate to distinct between a leaders whose interest is to serve the citizens of the country and a leader whose interest is to benefit himself. So at some point, what I normally tell uh, my fellows is this: before you bring a complaint about something, also ask what is your contribution to that mess. because that means this mess started from somewhere. And this mess started from a decision making process, in the essence that I had the chance to know who is this kind of a leader am I electing into position? Who is this kind of person am I giving the responsibility to take good care and to utilize the constitutionally available resources. So yes, we have some rogue leaders whose others whose interest is to serve everybody in the community. However, corruption is an issue that is affecting our economy by and large. Something we can't run away from. There is a reason why the Constitution speaks about the sovereign power of the people that allows the people to check whatever the leadership are implementing. And that's why public participation is very key in our budget making process. So this means, as far as citizens are concerned, we must also accept that civic education is also not to the standard as expected, or rather as enshrined in the Constitution. So, as Jimmy said, the starting point in this matter perhaps will be civic education so that our people understand the budget making process. It is civic education so that our people understand the mandates of the MCA, or other member of county assembly, and also the mandate of the governor, so that when they see the MCA siding with the governor for stealing resources, they can question the MCA's action, why they are compromising the aspect of devolution. When they see the MP compromising the illegality performed by the executive, that is the head of the executive, who is the president, they can question the MC. How the catastrophe now comes. The citizens, 80%, or let's say 70% of them, they don't know the distinct responsibility between the office of the member of county assembly and the office of the Senate, between the office of the governor and the office of the president, between the judiciary and the executive, between the executive and the parliament. Majority of the people still understand, like the roads development, we have parastatals that are in charge. We have carer that are in charge of the other construction. So that is just an example of the things that we need to do. So as far as serving the interest of Wananchi is concerned, for us to realize it maximally, then checks and balances for these offices must be enhanced, and should not be enhanced by the same people you expect to implement. So it means citizens must take the lead responsibility in ensuring that they hold the relevant offices into account, by ensuring, if you know the amount that let's say your county is giving to the MCAs as ward development fund, then it is your responsibility as a citizen to know how was this fund utilized. And if it was not properly utilized, do we have other legal means of ensuring that we question the MCA's action in terms of the implementation of the project? If you know the amount, or rather the budget, that your county is working on, then you can now question the office of the governor. We don't want the governor to question himself. So it means the aspect of accountability must be enhanced, and that is why
Jimmy, I think Miss Thomas is stuck internet. Jimmy,
Uh,
what do you say about the corruption cases that usually are just found within the political class and their cronies?
First of all, there's something interesting that Thomas was bringing up, which I totally agree with.
Mm-hmm.
That I didn't want to slip away before I come to this. The issue of civic education
Mm-hmm.
is very important on issues of governance. And yes, I fully agree with him, and I'm happy that he's brought this forward, that citizens are unaware of what is happening around them, understanding the structure of governance both from the national and subnational level, the responsibility of different offices, which is very important, knowing what resources are supposed to go where and in whose jurisdiction are these resources. And that is what opens the window for a number of corruptions that are taking place, because those who are in office are taking advantage of of this when they know that citizens do not understand who is in charge of a development in whichever area. They take advantage of that, and those are the loopholes that they use to steal the public fund. So I fully agree with Thomas on that. On issues of corruption, again, in these offices, just as Thomas had also said, I agree that there are a number of corruption cases that are taking place in these public offices. First of all, anyone who holds a public office must conduct himself uh, uh, as expected and as Chapter 6 of our Constitution on, liberty, on leadership and integrity dictates that anyone who is holding a public office must ensure that is a person of integrity and must ensure that the resources that are allocated in those offices are used responsibly and for the sole purpose of serving the public. So whoever is found in issues of corruption must face the full force of the law. So the problem comes in where those who have been found culpable are not brought to book.
Mhm.
And how do we ensure that we make sure that there's those who are involved in corruption scandals serve as an example to any other person who may find himself or herself in these offices? There's need for prosecution to take place. And I still insist that this still boils down to citizens standing their ground and checking the government, because a number of these leaders, even some were in the opposition who are supposed to be checking the government to a great extent, sometimes go to bed with
Mhm.
the government. So it still boils down to citizens. It still boils down to issues of civic education to ensure that citizens are politically empowered and are able to understand uh, every level of governance in our nation and to make sure that the government runs smoothly.
Let me ask you a question, both of you. Let me ask you a question about, you've talked so much about the citizen knowing what they should be doing. But this is a case whereby, especially in corruption, whereby somebody has stolen government money and he runs back to his community and hold this big rally and say, we are targeted as a community, yet is the sole person who stole the money from the public coffers. Then the public or the members of his community will stand with him, and they might say, huyo ni wetu hata kama ni mwizi. How then will they play the role if they are also playing into that game? Mr. Thomas, if you may answer, or Jimmy might go first.
Okay, Mr. Benson, we have got a constitution, and our constitution is supreme, and we
Mhm,
have to follow the law. We are a nation that is guided by the rule of law. It does not matter whether a person who has been found culpable of any corruption scandal comes from whichever community. Yes, citizens have got a responsibility of ensuring that they check the government. But at the same time, if it comes to such isolated cases where those who have been mentioned in corruption scandals uses their community as a shield, then the constitution remains supreme. We must ensure that such people are prosecuted according to the law.
mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, but they might be taken to court according to law, the way you're
Yeah.
saying, but like a situation whereby, like, the citizen who still complains, like, who are the political class fighting for, and their money has been stolen, then this guy come to your community, instead of you being very bold enough to tell him, no, this is not the right way, you also kind of like dive into it, and you start complaining again. How are you how are you now going to deal with it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it takes me back to what I shared with you at the beginning, that we need to understand the levels of interest in politics. And citizens need to understand at what point is the political interest taking place, and at what point is their interest being looked at. At this point, you find that it's the political class interest that is being served. This is a person who has been involved, who has been found to be guilty of some corruption scandal, or has got some cloud that is still hanging over their head over some misappropriated fund. And he or she runs back to the community and uses the community as a shield for a corruption scandal that requires him to take responsibility and account for.
Mm-hmm.
So citizens must understand that, one, these levels of interest,
Mm-hmm.
there's need for them to separate those levels of interest and know when they are submerging themselves into wars that are not theirs, and they must remove emotions out of it completely if their interests have to be taken care of.
Hey, Mr. Thomas, you're back. Hello, maybe is muted. And that's civic education. And who should be doing that? Is it the government, or who should be doing the civic education to the public?
Civic education to the public is the responsibility of government.
Yeah.
But again, we are not seeing the government doing the same civic education. And I can say that to a great extent, it could also be deliberate so that citizens continue sleeping, if I may use a language that will be understood by everyone, that citizens continue sleeping to enable them or give them a
Mm,
comfortable time to embezzle citizens' fund. So
yeah.
the government has got a responsibility that of ensuring that they conduct civic education to its citizens.
Mm,
And if the government is not doing that, we expect the leadership, for
uh,
example, when youth leadership, young people can organize themselves.
mm,
Young people can organize themselves, take advantage of other organizations that are out there that
mm,
are concerned about the issue of accountability, and are concerned about issues of justice, and especially organizations that deal with human rights.
mm,
They do a number of programs that give citizens civic education, and I feel that citizens should take advantage of such opportunities to understand even our constitution itself. I've seen a number of human rights organizations that are giving out copies of a constitution, trying to guide citizens to understand
yeah.
some of the most important and crucial articles within those constitutions. So the government has a responsibility of doing that. In the event that the government is not letting us down, we still have another window, we still have another door that we can use to ensure that we empower we empower the citizens, yes, to check the government.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes, sir.
oh, you are still there. We were just talking about I asked a question about um, a political leader who has been mentioned on a corruption case. But what he does, he comes home and say to the community, kind of like, we are targeted, and the community will stand with him. At the same time, we want to create awareness whereby the community should know their role. How can that one play? How do you address that?
Addressing that is not hard. However, the country, we have made it to seem like an uphill task.
Hmm.
What I will suggest is the judiciary to perform their duties, and the And okay, the criminal
Uh, uh, there's a problem with his network. Okay, we'll get back to him if he comes
to
back.
be allowed to
Okay,
work independently. What we are
yeah.
lacking as a country is the independency of different institutions enshrined in the constitution of the head of executive, which at
Mhm,
some extent, some are true.
mhm.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we are getting you very well. Hello.
Yeah, so I'm saying
Mm,
most of the political leaders have their supporters protecting them. So you find the judicial system has been kind of has been
yeah, there's a problem with the internet. Okay. Okay, Mr. Magero, let us continue. And there's also something that I've really witnessed with the political class in our country. And this is where the political class has kind of like normalized the hate speech amongst the leadership, which has created toxic environment. And this is where I usually look at it like this. Look, for example, when Kipiegon or any other athlete from Kenya wins something, yeah, all when you look at the Twitter handle of every leader, yeah, the words they say, they are praising our country and praising the especially the athlete, yeah, that now it
Yes.
shows you that this our country is united, right? But when it comes to politics, whether on the Twitter or the Twitter handle or any social media handle that they have, you would see how much hate speech the leaders themselves are saying, yeah, as compared to when um, athlete wins something. When athletes win, it's ours. But when it comes to politics, is all this, and this one sometimes create a toxic environment whereby you just feel like you cannot stay in a society whereby is another community is dominant in that area. How can that one be solved, or as leaders what can they do so that we feel like you're fighting for us when we win all, we don't have like something that kind of like toxic environment.
Yes, Mr. Benson, it's quite unfortunate that that has been happening. And before we lost Thomas was talking about the independence of the institutions and this independent institution working without any coercion or any influence from the executive. That I'll talk of the independence of institutions like the National Integration, NIC, and Cohesion. These independent officers must be given a chance to do their work. And I still suggest that
Mhm,
this independent office must take charge and ensure that those who are involved in hate speech are brought to book, because as a nation that is guided by the rule of law, we cannot allow people to do whatever they feel and get away with it. We know very well how hate speech has almost led to uh, uh, hate speech led to serious deaths in 2002, 2008, 2007, 2007, 2008 post-election violence. It started just like this, and before we knew it, things were getting out of hand, and citizens were butchering each other. So these are things that should not be ignored because they are drums of war. And I feel that there is need to take advantage of some of these offices which were created, which are independent, and ensure that anybody who is involved in issues of hate speech are brought to book and account for it. These people should not be let to go scot-free, because the more they do this, they becomes normal, and that is something that is absurd. And once you normalize something that is absurd, at the end of the day, it becomes a norm, and people begin becoming comfortable with absurdity, and at the end of the day, you can your guess is as good as mine where we'll be headed. So there's need for such people to be brought to book. There's no one who is above the law, whether it is the politicians, whether it is which leader, any person who is trying
Mhm.
to divide Kenyans is a person who is beating drums of war, and we do not want to find ourselves in situations like the ones that we had in 2007, 2008, the wars that we've been finding ourselves each and every electioneering period. All these wars begin with such hate speeches from our leaders. And our leaders are people we look up to. It's unfortunate that these things are coming from them. We expect them that they are supposed to be people who are setting standards for citizens. These are people who should be role models. And it's unfortunate that they are the same people who are fueling such wars. So we need to be very strict in implementing our constitution. We need to be very strict in ensuring that this independent institution work independently without any influence from any arm of government, to ensure that we have got a nation that is peaceful, to ensure that we have got a nation that is living in tranquility as much as we have got different tribes amongst us.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. Before we lost you, you are on talking something about on how the leaders and the Mwananchi people from their community would act. The same time, when you want to, you can talk on that. And again, we are also talking about the way the political class leaders has normalized the hate speech, which has created maybe a toxic environment in our country. Yeah, so that's another question. Maybe if you can elaborate and talk about it a little bit. Hello, Mr. Thomas. We
Yeah,
lost him again.
as a shield. I was talking about. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you, Thomas. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
I'm saying I was talking about the community behaving as a shield. Yeah, I'm saying for the rogue leaders. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, continue. We can hear you.
Yeah, so I'm saying I was talking about leaders enjoying the shield of the community for their kind of misguided actions. That is in terms of being perpetrators of some illicit deals, or rather what we call some misbehaviors that is in the political space. Some leaders have positioned themselves to appoint their regional kingpins, and the system tend to believe they are untouchable, that nobody can dare them, despite them going totally in totality against the rule of law. So I think what I said is the independency of our institutions has been
We lost him again.
It seems.
Hmm. Okay, we will get back to him. Hello, Mr. Thomas. Okay, seemingly we've lost Thomas again, and we've talked about normalization of hate speech amongst the and how should the Wananchi react, because they know very well that the leader is doing this for his benefit, yet they buy into it. How can we run away from it as a citizen? How can we run, Jimmy? How can we run away from all this hate speech that are being made by politicians, maybe to get fame or to trend or to create that toxic environment? We as the citizens, how can we deal with it?
Yes, I think that citizens need to be very conscious of what is happening around them, and they need not to forget some of the consequences of some of these hate speeches that the politicians uh, have been using in political podiums. We've seen citizens losing their lives after such hate speeches. And we need to remind ourselves where the rain started beating us. The citizens themselves need to begin reminding themselves of a number of proposed that the leadership from the grassroots,
Mhm.
leadership that are not in the political spaces, leadership that are more neutral. And these are leadership maybe from the human rights, other organizations that are non-political must keep engaging citizens on debates that are touching on behaviors of politicians and what they expect at the end of the day. Because if they do not begin this conversation amongst themselves, they're still going to remain blinded, and at the end of the day, they'll
Mhm.
still be exposed. And at the end of the day, whatever the politicians um, are saying, or whatever the incitement that they keep on doing, will still affect citizens.
Um, thank you very much. And the same if you look at especially like if you look at right now in the government. No, ever since we got independence, you find that we kind of are still experiencing cases where there is no regard for values and moral in our society today, whereby you find like these are insults. The leader that's insult, there's that tribalism. If you find, if I may quote, when the vice president, the deputy president, is calling government shareholder, you know, whereby he
Yes.
feels like if you did not vote for that government, you're not a shareholder. You may not get maybe something from the government because you did not vote for it. Yeah? And this one, as to me, it has caused what we call the national unity of a country has been watered down. How can you unite if somebody or a leader like the position of deputy president would say this is a shareholder, is a shareholder company, yet it is a country for everybody. Because we know during politics, we cannot share the same views or we cannot like the same leaders. You have person that you're supporting, but once the election is done and we have a government in place, you should serve people regardless of who they are. So what do you say about that? Those insults and tribalism and those kind of what is coming from our leaders, not only deputy president and some even some other leaders from opposition. Yeah.
Yes, it's quite unfortunate that these are things that are coming from our leaders. And just as you've said, you've given a good example of some of the utterances that were made by the deputy president. It's quite unfortunate that these leaders do not understand or are not aware that these offices are symbols of national unity. The presidency is a symbol of national unity, and we expect that anyone who occupies this office must be able to be very responsible with their utterances, and their utterances must be utterances that are uniting Kenyans rather than dividing Kenyans. So there is need for leaders to be very responsible, act responsibly, be very keen with what they are saying, and understand that whatever comes out of their mouth has got the power to either unite the nation or divide the nation. And those offices do not belong to individuals. Those offices, they hold them in trust. And when they are in those offices, it's not about them, it's about those offices. So they must understand that those are offices like the presidency as symbols of national unity. And whenever they are occupying such offices, they must ensure that they act responsibly, having the interest of the citizens and the interest of the nation at heart. They may hold divergent opinion, but those opinions can be brought out in a way that does not divide the country.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yes.
I agree with you. And we are not only um, saying is only the deputy president, but you've seen on the political landscape of the political class, either from opposition or from the government, some kind of utterances they make actually create like a very toxic environment, even. But the people who suffer most are the common men, because like the people at the grassroots level, because they're the people who the majority of times they are together in these markets areas, they are together in the schools, there was, so they are the most affected. So when such thing happens, the tension will only build up not on the leaders but build up on the citizens who are sharing maybe these social places together. And our leaders should also think about that and find a way. They can find a way of doing it to show us that they are fighting for us, not they are dividing us in the community. Yes, and we've lost Thomas. I don't know whether Thomas will be getting back. I don't know. And there's also something that is really happening, Jamie. I don't know whether you've witnessed it in today. Ever since the election, we've had like endless campaign, political campaigns, and most of these campaigns are being attended by the members of the parliament or the members of the senate. And if they continue doing like this, um, and they will not focus on the agenda of the people or agenda that is affecting the country, how will we benefit as the people of Kenya if each and every time we are on endless campaign? How can we benefit, or how do we know that now they are fighting for us by holding those campaign, yet they should be in the parliament to discuss about issues that affect us? Hello, Jimmy.
Yes, Mr. Benson, it is, it is said that a statesman thinks of the next generation
Yeah.
and a politician thinks of the next election.
Mhm.
And this is what we are experiencing, that we are deficient of statesmen in our nation. And there are a number of reasons why it's campaign after election. And it's weird. It's very in Kenya, in our nation here, where we go to election when we are already thinking of the next election. And if you look at these campaigns keenly, you will realize that the spaces that are being used for these rigorous campaigns are mostly the social media and stuff. And these are spaces which are predominantly occupied by young people. And this tells you something, that we are having a very big youth bulge that is unemployed,
Mhm.
who are not finding themselves in spaces where they can be engaged on activities that could be benefit them in their lives, or activity that could change their lives. And the politicians have taken advantage of this to use them a lot.
Mhm.
Um, I still feel that yes, citizens are supposed to be conscious of uh, the political happenings within their nation, but this should not be to the extent that we lose focus on what we need to do when we finally have a government in place. Once the government is in place, citizens must come back and now look at how that government is going to ensure that they deliver on their manifesto, everything that they promise, looking at their priorities. But it is so sad that what we are seeing is endless campaigns, and these endless campaigns, to me, I don't think that it's all about. We found ourselves in a situation whereby politics is like soccer, has become like soccer, where even if you are not gaining anything between a football between Manchester United and Arsenal, you are very emotional about who is going to win and who is going to lose, as much as it is football that is played very many miles away, and people don't understand it. But at the end of the day, you just feel good. That should not be the situation where we as citizens should be finding ourselves when it comes to politics. As much as, yes, we can be emotional about the parties that we support, the people that we support, it must not be to the extent that we ignore the most important thing. And those most important things are issues of policies, issues of performance of leaders who are in those offices, and how are those offices serving the citizens' problems. Because at the end of the day, we find citizens still stuck on with their problems, the issues that are affecting them every day, as much as they are so much emotional with those that they are campaigning for.
Let me ask you, because do you think it's also like a source of a meaning to keep my pocket, to have something in my pocket? Because you find the majority of people, the majority of population that is used so much in terms of politics are the youth. For instance, somebody just decided to pick group of young men and tell them, okay, you just start kind of like praising my name around in the community to just to let them know I'm warming up. But in the
Mhm.
process, it distract the youths themselves from holding the person they elected accountable for his job, because the youth will be focusing, because you've been given the money, he will say this guy is a bad guy.
Yes.
And if you ask him what is the reason why you feel he's not fit to be there, no, he's eating our money, but you don't have anything to say about him, just because there's a guy somewhere who has given you money to say how good he is. You forget putting the elected person on check. So I think it's not only on the leaders, it's not only on the leader, but it's also on the youths. They should also be very keen on the political space, because there are also people who are fueling this campaign by them being used by people who wants to buy maybe 2027 or some years to come. So
Mhm.
they should also think about that. And they
Yes,
should
I agree with you.
they should
I
also,
agree with you.
yeah, you know,
I agree with you on that. And actually still takes me back to the same statement that I made on levels of interest in politics.
yeah.
We must understand at what point do we need to know that this is where now our interest is
Yes.
going to be, yes, and this is where now we need to focus and concentrate our energy. When
Yeah.
politicians are looking for power, they'll have to use propaganda, use a lot of tactics and strategies to ensure that they get that power.
Yeah.
But then sometimes we are also submerged in the same, and we find ourselves fighting their war. At the end of the day, once they win or they get power,
Mhm.
we lose focus that we are now supposed to be bargaining for our cake now.
Mm.
So it's upon us to know where should we lay our trap.
Mhm.
They've laid the trap on top. Where do we lay our trap, we now as citizens, so that at the end of the day they get the power that they want, but we make sure that the resources that we want to come down and help us in different ways are also trapped, and we also get our peace at the end of the day. So those are things that citizens must be very clear about. They must
Mhm.
understand those levels of interest. They must understand at what point must they place their net, at what point should they lay their traps to make sure that they also get their piece.
Jimmy, I was here. I think it was 3 weeks ago when we had a conversation with you here about the police brutality, especially on young men in Kenya. And this, I brought this also to talk about it, but I want to look it into a different angle. I think you were there when this motion was brought into Parliament. They were discussing it, and You saw how Parliament was; it was in chaos, both the Azimio side and the government side. And I think you saw what Kimani Chungwa said. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and that was very painful. What Kimani Chungwa said, but now I think this is kind of like impunity that is coming in, killing of unarmed protesters by both uniform and plainclothes law enforcement. We are not saying all the law enforcement are rogue, but there are some elements there that are not doing what is required of them by killing the unarmed protesters. And this should come from the leadership itself in the parliament. If they were fighting for the people, I don't think it could have been good for them to fight the way they did. They could have just researched leadership and say, what is the way forward? How can we hold the police accountable when an armed person is being killed like that? You know, instead of having those wars. How you see that's how what can you say?
Yeah. Mr. Benson, I think the government should not be begged to
Mm,
protect citizens. The
mhm,
government should not be begged to protect citizens because the power that the government enjoys, the power that the police enjoys, these are donated powers from the people.
mhm,
And there's a social contract that is signed between citizens and any government. And in that social contract, the government agrees that yes, we are going to protect you, we are going to provide you with these services, and your responsibility will be to respect the law, pay tax as we give you all these services. So if the government is not honoring its side of the bargain, then
mhm,
citizens under Article 1 are allowed to take back that power. There
mhm,
is no police who is supposed to shoot and kill a protester. Because if the police is armed, even if that protester is armed with a stone, still there is no justification for any police officer who is trained to
mhm,
aim at that protester and kill that protester. There are a number of ways in which the police can handle that protester. You can maybe, even if it is shooting the leg, just disarming that protester, even shooting the hand, but taking away the life of an unarmed protester or even an armed protester should be a very, very last resort unless the life of that police is in danger, and not just in danger to the extent that maybe that protester was going to kill that police. Article 29 of our Kenyan Constitution talks about the right to life. The
mhm,
right to life in that constitution is very supreme amongst all those articles.
mhm,
Every Kenyan citizen must be protected, and in the event that the police cannot protect the citizens,
mhm,
then citizens are and can justify why they must protect themselves. Number two, there
mhm,
is no way we are going to have a police on the street controlling protester and is in a plain clothes.
mhm,
You know very well that that uniform that the police puts on alone is a security to those police officers. When they're in those police uniforms, citizens are able to obey commands because that uniform alone is a symbol of authority. So
mhm,
when the police comes to control protesters and is not in uniform and they
mhm,
are making arrests, they are also shooting to kill, then if citizens attack such policemen, presumably that they are rogue people or they are either thugs who have infiltrated demos, then they
mhm,
can easily get away with it. I'm worried. I'm asking myself a situation where citizens decide to attack a police officer who does not have a uniform
mhm,
with the claim that these are the people who are robbing people who are protesting, because not everyone is always on the street with a good intention or an intention to protest against some issue. There are
mhm,
those who come to steal. There are those who thugs who take advantage of that. And if a citizen assumes that the police who is amongst them, even if he is armed, is
mhm,
a thug, and they attack that police and kill him,
mhm,
then you can justify to some extent. So the police must be in their uniforms because
mhm,
that uniform in the first place acts as the security. We saw a situation whereby a police officer masqueraded and went and arrested one of the protester after pretending to be to be a journalist.
Mm.
Where does that leaves our brothers in the journalism profession? It exposes them. Tomorrow,
Mm.
citizens will attack journalists who are doing their job, assuming that they could be police officers who are masquerading. So the police must act responsibly on the issue of right to life, on the issues of shooting protesters. There is no two-way on it. There is no speaking by both sides of the mouth. There is no justification of shooting a protester to kill. Right to life is supreme. It must be protected. The same power that police is using to shoot the citizens who are protesting, those are powers that have been donated by citizens, and citizens have got a right to demand back those powers in the event that they're using those powers excessively and irresponsibly to claim lives.
Yes, I agree with you. But now, where my problem comes is that when we come to our leadership now, that instead of them seeing that what you are saying the police were doing is wrong, they are not agreeing. That those who in favor of the police, that those who are against, you know, and the life has
Yes.
been lost. So that's where I'm asking for them. Like now, if either the political class on the both sides, either the government or the opposition, and we know what the police did was not right, why can't we as leaders come together and say this is unacceptable in our society or in our country, and anybody who was involved in this must be held accountable for that?
I think that, Mr. Besson, it is high time we must not just leave or let the buck stop with the leadership.
Yeah.
This is the point where citizens, I still insist that citizens have got a lot of responsibility in all this because leaders have let us down again and again. These killings that are taking place are not happening for the very first time. We've had killings every time we are having serious protests. And because it has become a norm,
Mm.
the leaders who are talking about the police did a good job are simply saying this because they are in an environment where such an absurdity is becoming a norm. I hope you are getting my point.
Yes, I
And
know.
citizens must understand that this, whatever is happening is something that is should not happen. It is something that is uncalled for. It is something that is quite unfortunate, something that is so absurd that should not be a norm in our society, where we even discuss and debate whether killing was right or wrong. It is wrong, there is no debate about it.
Hmm.
Citizens must begin asking for accountability even before their leaders. Even as their leaders are pushing for accountability in their spaces, citizens need to lead from the forefront because they are the ones who are losing lives, at the end, whose lives are being targeted at the end of the day. Assume that the president gave orders before those demonstrations, Mr. Benson,
Hmm.
gave orders. He is the commander in chief of the armed forces.
Hmm.
If he gave orders that demonstration must be controlled, but I do not want to see a single life lost, do you think we could have lost even a single Kenyan in these demos?
I don't think so.
No, we were not going to lose even a single. Who are you? You, which the son of who? You in the police force who is going to defy the president's order that no citizens should lose their lives, but demonstration must be controlled. Whether they're going to use tear gas, whether they're going to use those water tankers and whatever, they are going to use the clubs that they're having, whether they're going to use the horses and those dogs to make sure that they control protesters. At the end of the day, that the only casualty or extreme case should be maybe a rubber bullet on a
Hmm.
protester who went to the extreme
Hmm.
simply because the president gave an order that I do not want to see any of my citizens lose a life in this demonstration, but go out there and control those demos. None of Kenyans would have lost their lives. So it tells you that whatever is happening has got also a blessing from some high authorities.
Hmm.
who have given commands, who are not minding, who do not care whether Kenyans are going to lose their lives. But we cannot continue living that way in this society. We must protect lives. Right to life is supreme in that constitution, and we can never debate on whether it is good or it was right when people were killed. It was wrong. It was not right.
Thank you, Mr. Jimmy Magero. Before we wind up, now we are almost winding up, and I just want to know your view on bipartisan talk that is going on right now. What is your view? What do you expect after 60? Is it 60 or 30 days? 60 days.
Yes.
60 days. What do
Yeah,
you expect?
yes, yes. On the bipartisan talks that are going on, we expect that the issues that they are going to discuss are the issues that citizens were on the street for. I'm only disappointed that much as they are now sitting down for negotiations, the constituency that went out on the street, the constituency that lost their lives, that is the youth constituency. Some of them are still lying in the morgues. There are a number of them who are still having bullet wounds. There are some who have been maimed. Others have been buried already, and the burials are still going on. We were the ones who were majorly on the street.
Mm-hmm.
But who told them that we were on the street because we want the servers to be opened? Who told them that we were on the street because we want the price of unga to go down? Who told them that we were on the street because the price of fuel is high?
Mm-hmm.
Who told them that we were on the street because we want them to reduce the house levies or whatever, or to remove the same? Do they know that we had got other issues, we as young people, that took us to the street? But where is our representative on that negotiation table to tell them why we were on the street, why we were carelessly putting our life in the line if they feel that it was careless of us? Who is on that negotiation table to tell them that we are there because the son of a peasant farmer cannot access education? Education has become too expensive for them. Who is on that negotiation table to tell them
Mm-hmm.
that we want jobs? Number two, we want jobs. Number three, youths want jobs. Who is on that negotiation table to represent young people? I've not seen it. I expect
Mm-hmm.
that those who are in that negotiation table are going to see into it. They're going to bring our issues on board, and a number of them, the ones that I've just talked about here, so that our issues are not captured. It should not just be about maybe talks on how to share positions, talks about who gets whichever position. That is not going to happen. I still urge young people to come out and make sure that they stand their ground. And if they are not going to be on that negotiation table, they need to break that table. There's no negotiation that needs to take place.
But like Jimmy, let me just bring you to some at least when you look at how many times have we had the first negotiation was when was it? I think there was one the one between Raila and Moi, whereby
Yes,
then was the LDP. Then after the LDP, it went. We came for the CORD one.
yes,
The we call the Grand Coalition government. Yeah.
yes,
After the Grand Coalition government, there is these are the ones that was done between the Right Honorable Prime Minister and the former President Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta. And
absolutely.
now we have this one that is going on at Bomas of Kenya. If you look at all this that has been happening, have you ever seen the youths are being involved?
And that is why I'm very emotional when I'm talking about this, Mr. Benson. That in all these negotiations that have been taking place, you realize that it is the youth that set the pace before finally the government gave in and decided that we are going to talk. It's
Mm,
the youth who go out there, outside there and pile pressure. We've never seen young people being represented. And even if this negotiation takes place, the issues that are always being discussed on the negotiation table are issues that are never issues that youths are complaining about. That is why this time round, I still beseech young people that we must put pressure to see our representatives sit on those negotiation table, representatives who resonate with our issues, not just representatives because they are young people. We know the constitutional definition of who a youth is. We want people not only who are between that age gap of youth, but those who resonate with our problems, youths who have always been representing young people, who've always been in the forefront in fighting for fighting for justice for young people. We know them, they're in different spaces. We want to see such faces, not just people representing youth by mere fact that they are aged between 18 and 35, but those who resonate, those who have always been in the struggle, those that we know, the faces that we understand very well, that have been genuinely and honestly fighting for young people. Those are the people that we want to be on that table to present and to represent us, to enable all the issues that took us to the street to be taken into account.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jimmy. And I'm looking immediately after the release of that report to the Right Honorable Prime Minister and the President of Kenya, Dr. William Ruto. I will call you here on the debate so we can share and see if really the outcome will benefit the common man, if it
Mm.
benefits, if it reflects the reason why we were on the street, if it reflects the reason why we've lost our sons and brothers, if it reflects the will of the people. We will invite you here so that we can discuss and see the way forward. And if it doesn't reflect, what will be the next step for the youths, especially when it comes to advocating for their needs or their challenges to the government. So that's something that I will look up to you, and will work with you on your schedule, and I will invite you here so we can discuss it. Maybe your last word to our viewers.
My last word to our viewers, I want to tell uh, especially the young people who went out and put their life on the line over the high cost of living, that the blood of our fellow young people, our fellow comrades who died on the street, who were shot by the police officers, will only be accounted for if the issues that are affecting young people are on that negotiation table and are taken with the seriousness that it deserves. And as I wind up, I want to remind Kenyans of the quote by one writer by the name Will Durant, who said that the political machine triumphs because it is a united minority acting against a divided majority. The Kenyans must know that they are the majority, and few united people are ruling over them, and they must take advantage of their numbers and unite to make sure that they are not uh, ruled or they are not led the wrong direction. So that is my message to the youth and my message to Kenyan citizens.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me take this opportunity also to thank those who are watching us. We have Donald Kimaya, thank you very much. Frederick Odiwar, very much. Okoth Deno, very much. This is Nelly Akungu, very much. Bevi Maira, Felix Onyango, Nyanza exclusive. Thank you very much for taking your time to be with us. You can always invite a friend to be member of us by giving us subscription. So thank you very much, and we are seeing you next Wednesday, the same place, same time. Have a good one.